Welcome to Law Days and Lattes, the podcast where we blend the world of law and business with a warm cup of information and common sense. I'm your host, Sidney, attorney, real estate investor, and business owner. Each week, we'll be your go-to source for legal insights, business advice, and so much more. Whether you're a seasoned professional, an ambitious entrepreneur, or simply someone seeking guidance, we'll have you covered. From navigating the legal landscape to empowering you with valuable business strategies, we'll explore the legal side of life and enjoy a virtual latte along the way. So, grab your favorite latte, get comfortable, and let's dive in to Law Days and Lattes. Welcome back to Law Days and Lattes, where we talk about life, law, business, and building something meaningful, one conversation at a time. I'm your host, Sidney Whelan, founder of the Whelan Law Firm, serving North Central Missouri businesses and families in 3 convenient locations, Moberly, Carrollton, and Paris. There are moments in life when you suddenly realize that what you're building is about so much more than money. This weekend was one of those moments for me. This weekend, we hosted a political event at the ranch. And yes, there were conversations about policy and elections and the future of our communities. But honestly, what stood out most had nothing to do with politics. What mattered most to me was watching life happen. It was seeing old friends reconnect and new friendships form naturally over shared meals and conversations. It was watching children gather on the dock to feed the fish, laughing as giant catfish rolled to the surface of the water. It was families spread across the property, one group playing cornhole, another organizing a spontaneous ball game in the open field while parents visited nearby. It was hearing the kind of laughter that only comes when people feel free, safe, and welcomed. And after everyone left, it was sitting quietly at sunset with a drink in hand, listening to the peaceful silence settle back over the ranch. In that moment, I realized something important. This is why we build it. Not just businesses, not just wealth, not just property. We build spaces, opportunities, and experiences that create connection, freedom, and memories for the people we love. Some people look at investments in land, hobbies, family gatherings, entertaining spaces, travel, or recreation, and then just dismiss them as luxuries or frivolous expenses. I completely disagree. I think many of those things are essential to building a meaningful life. Now, I'm not talking about reckless spending or consumer debt disguised as living your best life. There's a difference between consumption and intentional investment. But there's also a difference between merely surviving and intentionally creating a life that leaves an imprint on future generations. Because legacy is not only about what's written in your will, legacy is also about the memories people associate with you. It's about the places where your family gathered, the traditions your grandchildren remember, the stories told around the table years after you're gone, the property where cousins learned to fish together, the pavilion where weddings were celebrated, the farm where children ran barefoot through the grass while adults talked late into the evening. Those things matter deeply. As an attorney, I spend a lot of time helping families prepare legal documents designed to protect assets and transfer wealth. And that work is incredibly important. But I've also learned something over the years. Families rarely fight over things that hold emotional connection and shared meaning. What destroys families is often the absence of intentionality. No communication, no structure, no vision, and no shared experiences tying people together. Money alone does not create unity. Shared experiences do. Purpose does. Community does. Intentional stewardship does. Sometimes the smartest investment you can make isn't another stock portfolio or another piece of equipment for your business. Sometimes it's the fishing dock, the pavilion, the family trip, the acreage where your children learn responsibility and hard work, the side-by-side rides through the woods, the hunting camp, the Sunday dinners, the gathering place, because those are the things that create culture within a family. And culture is what survives long after money comes and goes. I think too many people wait to enjoy their lives until someday. Someday, when the business is fully built. Someday, when the house is paid off. Someday, when they retire. Someday, when life slows down. But someday is not promised. And if we aren't careful, we can become so focused on building a living that we forgot to build a life. This ranch has become more than property to us. It has become a place where relationships deepen, where community happens naturally, where people unplug long enough to remember what matters. And honestly, I think the world needs more of that. We need more places where kids are outside instead of staring at screens. More evenings around the fire pit. More conversations that aren't rushed. More opportunities for people to gather without agendas and simply just enjoy being together. That's not frivolous. That's foundational. And yes, building something like this takes sacrifice. It takes risk. It takes a lot of work. There were years when investing in property, maintaining land, improving facilities, or building gathering spaces felt impractical on paper. But sometimes the best investments don't show up immediately on a spreadsheet. Sometimes the return comes in moments, in memories, in relationships, and in peace. In watching people you love enjoy something you created. And maybe that's part of what financial security is really about. Not accumulating endless things, but creating enough stability and intentionality that you can build a life worth sharing. A life that allows generosity. A life that creates opportunities for connection. A life your children and grandchildren will remember not for extravagance, but for meaning. So today I just want to encourage you. Don't underestimate the value of investing in your family, your community, your passions, your gathering places, and your experiences. Those investments are not distractions from life. Very often, they are the point of it. And before we wrap up today, I want to leave you with one final thought. If you've been dreaming about creating more meaningful experiences for your family, your friends, your organization, or your community, maybe you don't have to wait for someday to start. One of the greatest joys for us has been opening the ranch to others and watching people slow down long enough to reconnect with what really matters. We've watched families reunite around tables instead of screens. We've hosted weddings where generations gathered together under one roof. We've seen children catch fish for the first time. Friends sit around a fire late into the evening, and organizations step away from busy schedules long enough to genuinely connect. And every single time, it reminds us why we built this place. So, if you're looking for a place to host a wedding, family reunion, retreat, fundraiser, celebration, or simply a weekend gathering with people you care about, we would love for you to experience the hospitality and the peaceful beauty of Northwoods Ranch and Pavilion. Whether it's a quiet sunset over the water, coffee on the dock in the morning, or laughter echoing across the yard during a game of cornhole or softball, there's something special about gathering in a place designed for connection. You can reach out to learn more about events, gatherings, camping opportunities, and future plans for the ranch. Because at the end of the day, this place was built for more than us. It was built to be shared. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Law Days and Lattes. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who's building something meaningful, whether that's a business, a family, a farm, or simply a life filled with purpose and connection. Feel free to screenshot this episode and share it on social media. Tag me and tell me your biggest takeaway. Those shares help this podcast reach more people who are trying to build stronger businesses, protect their families, and create lives they truly love. As always, remember, the goal is not just to leave assets behind. The goal is to leave impact. Have a great week, my friends.
This podcast episode contains general information for discussion purposes only. Each case is different and must be judged on its own merits. Missouri rules generally prohibit lawyers from advertising that they specialize in particular areas of the law. This show should not be construed to suggest such specialization. Nothing on this show should be taken as legal advice for any individual case or situation. This information is not intended to create an attorney-client relationship, and the listening or viewing of this podcast does not constitute an attorney-client relationship. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.